South Park just released what I think is the most offensive, controversial episode in the show's history, or maybe even all of television. They've said the N-word 42 times in one episode, said the S-word over 100 times in one episode, literally depicted Muhammad, called out the Catholic Church for having fun with little boys, and parodied every president since Clinton, with the exception of Biden, and they've included cannibalism, a sex change surgery, and so much more, but this episode dwarfs all of that easily. The lengths they went to depict Trump the way they did, and the other parts of this episode are just so insane that I was just sitting there, stunned for most of the episode. I even watched it twice in a row because I was so surprised. What's even crazier is the reason for the episode, the deep symbolism, the complex storylines, and the response from both the audience and even Trump and the White House, all of which will be covered in this video. The first half of the video will be an analysis, and the second half will be news around the episode and the responses. But I don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over again, so without further ado, let's get into the time that South Park demolished Trump and screwed Paramount. This is arguably the most important storyline. There are 3 in this episode, but this one is the most focused on and definitely the most jarring. This isn't going to be in chronological order because it's segmented by storyline, but just bear with me. So Trump is seen in the White House taking a call when the Prime Minister of Canada walks in and complains about tariffs. This part may have been made earlier because this tariff thing is kind of old news. Anyways, Trump dismisses the point in a very Canadian way, which is supposed to mimic Saddam Hussein's way of speaking from early South Park.
A dictator from the Middle East? Hey, relax, guy. I'm just your average Joe. Take a rest.
Oh, and by the way, if you haven't noticed, Garrison isn't Trump anymore, but that will be covered in a bit. Anyway, Trump walks down the hallway lined with pictures of him in a very strange light, and comes upon a painter making a big portrait of him sitting down. But something's off, and Trump gets very mad, and the painter is kicked out and sued.
Why is my dick so small?
But that's the size it is in the photo.
Get this guy out of here. I'm gonna sue you. I'm gonna sue both of you.
The suing of people is a very common theme in this episode, so just note that. And the joke about him having small manhood is repeated many, many times, so I'm just going to refer to it as the repeated joke. Anyways, he goes to bed where Satan is literally in bed with him. This is parodying an earlier scene of South Park where Saddam Hussein is in the place of Trump. This is instance number 2 of this reference. Trump tries to get Satan to lighten up, but Satan's pissed and insults him based on the repeated joke.
I can't even see anything, it's so small.
Later in the episode, the scene of Satan in bed with Trump is repeated, but this time the joke is the Epstein list, which, if you haven't been living under a rock, is a reference to Trump blowing off Epstein-related questions.
Another random commented on my Instagram that you're on the Epstein list.
The Epstein list? Are we still talking about that?
Well, are you on the list or not? It's weird that whenever it comes up, you just tell everyone to relax.
I'm not telling everyone to relax. Relax, guy.
But that's pretty much the extent of the only Trump storyline, except for the last bit, which gets its own little section. The episode actually begins with the Cartman arc because Cartman is upset that NPR, his favorite news show, because
all the liberals bitch and whine about stuff, something's wrong with it,
was canceled by the president. He's not upset because it's censoring, which is wrong, but because it's Cartman, his reasoning is now that everyone is anti-Semitic, throwing around slurs and insulting everyone, he's not special anymore and feels like nothing.
Everyone hates the Jews, everyone's fine with using gay slurs.
Oh, well that's not good.
No, it's terrible. 'Cause now I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
He's constantly talking about how woke is dead and he's just so sad. In one scene, he walks around depressed in the shirt saying woke is dead, which is kind of hilarious. Here's the clip now. Cartman keeps spiraling and gets more and more downbeat because he just feels useless and unimportant. This is likely a mimic of real life, stating that South Park feels useless because they used to be edgy and pushing boundaries, but now everyone is constantly prancing over those boundaries like nothing. He also ropes Butters into this because he says he's going to unalive himself if things don't change by about next Tuesday, but he's also going to unalive Butters with him for some reason.
But if it doesn't come back by, Tuesday, I'm killing us both.
Anyways, this storyline continues a little bit later when Cartman is at Butters' house and is in a car with a hose that is supposedly pumping in carbon monoxide, which at a certain ratio would make someone pass out and die. But the funny thing is that he's inside an electric car, so it literally cannot kill them because there's no carbon monoxide coming out of an electric car. And even if it was a gas car, the window is kind of open so that the hose can come into the window, so it would take forever for them to die of carbon monoxide poisoning.
This is taking too long. Here you go, Butters. Buckle up, we're in for the last ride.
I think that this is parodying the fact that South Park will never die because of the earlier use of Butters and Cartman as symbolism for real-life events. Cartman and Butters are actively trying to end themselves, but it will never work, meaning that South Park is trying to get themselves canceled and sued, but they will always live on and keep going. The final scene only makes sense in this context. Here it is now.
Oh, I think I might be going. Yep, sweet death is about to come. I love you, man.
This is the third and final storyline, and the second most important. All the kids are summoned to an assembly where PC Principal starts yapping about everyone needing to be sensitive and accepting and yelling at Leslie. But wait, that doesn't happen. He instead starts talking about the Bible and how we need to repent and be Christian, which is just an insane turn. Cartman's words perfectly express ours.
What the hell, dude?
But anyways, he announces his new name, which is not politically correct Principal, but instead Power Christian Principal, abbreviated to PC Principal. He also brings in a beloved South Park character.
I'd like you all to put your hands together in welcoming Christ our Lord. Hello, my children.
Stan later goes home and talks about how Jesus was at school, which upsets Randy. Later, Randy is talking to some sort of AI, presumably ChatGPT, on his phone about the situation, while his wife is right next to him. Classic Randy. This kind of reminds me of one of my favorite episodes of South Park, the iconic line from Clyde.
Chat GPT, dude.
All the parents convene at a bar and decide to do something about this whole religion thing in schools. They storm over to Garrison's house because they think he's president and break down the door, but find out he isn't president.
Excuse me, do you mind?
What the hell do you think you're doing, Garrison?
I'm not doing anything.
By the way, all this happened before the Trump thing. Randy calls Trump and tries to talk to him about the problem at hand, but Trump just sues them for $5 billion.
Then I'm gonna sue your whole town. You got that? $5 billion.
Just as the South Parkians are re-rallying themselves, who shows up but Jesus? He gives them all bread, but instead of talking about how they can do this or they must be good or something like that, he talks with clenched teeth, telling them how the president is suing him and Paramount and CBS and canceling Colbert, and finally, he warns them to stop and shut up or South Park is over.
Idiots! All of you shut the fuck up or South Park is over! It's over! Just stop and shut the up!
Because of this, Gerald calls Trump and they settle for $3.5 million. The next part isn't crazy, but I still find it kind of funny.
We'll just have to cut some funding for our schools and hospitals and roads, and that should be that.
Anyways, while South Park thinks they have it good, Gerald has some unfortunate news. They have to make some pro-Trump messaging. This little 3-minute section is basically the best or worst part, depending on how you see it. The rest of the episode was bad when it came to depicting Trump, but this next part is on an entirely another level. They made a deep fake of Trump. I can't show the entirety of this next part, but if you want to see it for some reason, the official South Park channel released a video containing the scene. Anyway, basically Trump is walking through the desert, gradually undressing until he is fully exposed, at which time they make the same repeated joke, but not animated. Yeah, but now let's talk about the news stories that caused this episode and the responses from both the public and the president. Let's go. So I'm just going to go into the main stories that inspired or were mentioned in this episode. There's a bunch of Paramount and Trump related stuff, but I'm going to keep politics out of this and just say what happened. So basically, Kamala Harris had a 60-minute interview that Trump said was deceptively edited and claimed that it tampered the election, which is strange because he won. But anyways, he settled for $16 million with Paramount. Later, Stephen Colbert, one of CBS's most popular late-night show hosts, was also recently canceled. The official reason was that it lost $40 million a year, which is very possible, but some theories suggest that it was because he was anti-Trump and Trump got him canceled. But why would Paramount bow down and be all nice to Trump? Well, they're trying to merge with Skydance, but to get officially merged, they must be approved by the FCC, which Trump currently runs. There's a theory that Paramount is bending to Trump because they need him to pass the merger. But how does South Park play into this? Well, South Park just signed a $1.5 billion deal with Paramount for exclusive streaming rights for 5 years and 50 episodes. South Park was previously going to sue Paramount for disruptions in the production process, So basically, South Park is pissed at Paramount and is trying to get Trump to cancel the merger or make it hard, effectively screwing over Paramount. I think I got that all right, but if there's any more recent news, I apologize because I wanted to get this video out in a timely manner. But now let's talk about the response. I apologize if the voice changed, but I'm making this entire rest of the video before I shove this part in because I really want to make it as updated as possible. But anyways, it has an IMDb rating of 9.5, which is as high as Make Love Not Warcraft, and almost as high as Scott Tenorman Must Die, widely considered the best episodes in history. I thought it was pretty good, and it was funny how deep they went into the joke of Trump having small junk, but I still think 9.5 is a bit high. Personally, my rating's between 8.9 and 9.2. An interesting comment I found while looking through IMDb was that right before the Trump desert thing, it said PSA 1 out of 50, so how crazy would it be if they did 50 of these? I mean, that would just be insane. 50 of this type of things, that would make history. But now let's talk about the most awaited part, the president's response. The White House released the following statement regarding the South Park episode. The left's hypocrisy truly has no end. For years, they've been coming after South Park for what they labeled as offensive content, but suddenly they're praising the show. Just like the creators of South Park, the left has no authentic or original content, which is why their popularity continues to hit record lows. This show hasn't been relevant for over 20 years and is hanging on by a thread with uninspired ideas in a desperate attempt for attention. President Trump has delivered on more promises in just 6 months than any other president in our country's history, and no fourth-rate show can derail President Trump's hot streak. This was like literally the worst thing they could have possibly said. The best thing would just be to ignore it, but that was unlikely. But they could have handled it in a much more professional way. Just childly insulting South Park was not the move to win public support. Anyways, guys, Trump might sue South Park, and if they do, I'll make a video about that. But I'm going to make another video next week about next week's episode, and probably one in between, so stay tuned for those. But I would really appreciate it if you guys liked or subscribed, because I have no audience and it would help a ton. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
That's all, folks.